Greetings, folks. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The World According to the Blind Dog. I know it's been a bit since I put anything up, but I've been busy. I've been doing things, been drawing, living life, and I preach that, so I'm walking the walk of the talk that I talk. And I hope you guys are out there living life to the fullest, because in that quick, it can be snatched away from you. This has all been a learning process for me, and one of the things I've learned in doing this is that good audio will get you through crappy video better than good video will get you through crappy audio. This is my best audio setup yet. I know because I checked it and it sounds good. So, let's move on. You can always tell when you're getting successful at something when people will grab a hold of your coattails and drag you, drag along behind you, so to speak. Recently, Rick Beato, who is an incredible person. I've never met him, but I subscribe to his channels and I watch his videos. And the guy is smart. He has good things to say. But recently he made a video about why music is worse. Why music is worse today than it was years ago. And he made some very valid points. But because Rick is an engineer, he took an engineer's stance on his interpretations, and he was very valid in a lot of points. And so consequently, many other YouTubers are out there making videos about what Rick said, how he got it all wrong, yada, yada, yada. Well, Rick got a lot of it right, but he missed out on probably the one factor that why music, and it's not worse, it's just different. First off, we got to start off with the only true inevitable in life is change. Everything is going to change. So you either accept change and change along with it, or you get old and your vision tends to narrow and you literally get stuck in your ways. And you see it a lot, with a lot of older folks. Me, I'm borderline older. I'm turning 65 this year. But I try my best to keep an open mind about everything and explore all kinds of potential things. Back to Rick Beato's video. So a bunch of guys jumped and they were making videos how he got it all wrong and etc. And they all had very valid points, but they all seemed to take an engineer's viewpoint to it. And in my perspective, a lot of this engineering is very dry and technical, and I think music is art, and art is open to expression, and you should be able to express yourself and have, it's up to the audience of whether they want to listen to it or not. Yeah, I hear you. You're asking yourself, why the heck should I listen to this cat? What does he know? And you're right. I don't know nothing. I've never produced a hit album. I've never released a hit song. I've enjoyed some minor successes playing music, but basically I spent the past years, good Lord, 40 years now, in the trenches, trying to make something happen with bands. And I don't like to admit to the amount of bands I've been in, because to me it's just admitting to a string of failures because, you know, when you start that stuff, you're always, yeah, this is it, man. This is the one. These are the guys. Yeah, right. Some of the points that the engineering side brings up are very valid. You cannot program John Bonham into a drum machine. No matter what amount of AI that you use, you cannot do it. John Bonham just, sometimes he had that microsecond of hesitation, and you can't program that digitally. That's too organic for something digital to comprehend and take into consideration. Simple, truth of it all. So yeah, a lot of these albums and hits, nobody does albums anymore, but a lot of these songs that you listen to on your playlists and your streaming services, man, they are over processed. They're right, they've got so much processing on it, it takes the warmth out of the sound. I think that the biggest thing that's lacking these days is soul, feeling. And let me tell you why. When I was a kid and first started wanting to play guitar, that's all I could think about. And I just dreamed and dreamed and dreamed of having my first electric guitar. I flipped hamburgers at McDonald's. I flipped hamburgers at Wendy's. I actually flipped hamburgers at Wendy's with a guy named Ty Tabor. You guys know Ty Tabor. Ty is the lead guitar player for King's X. We worked at Wendy's together there in Pearl, Mississippi. But we scratched and we scratched and we scratched and we scratched and we saved up money and we bought our own guitars. And when we got that guitar, it meant the world to us. And we're there in our bedrooms, you know, with our turntables, working on these songs, and we get so far. What was that? We take the needle and put it back, play it again, pick up the needle, move it back, play it again while we're trying to ear out these songs. I remember paying $25 of my hard-earned money for quote-unquote was the secret to playing lead guitar. And basically what it was a mimeographed copy of hand-drawn pentatonic scales in all 5 positions in the key of E. And the secret to it, the guy says you just move it up and down the neck, you know. You could not go to the bookstore and buy a magazine that had the scales in it. Nothing. That didn't exist back then. You could go take lessons if you were willing to sit through Mel Bay's guitar method and start with Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now, hindsight being 2020, that's probably what I should have done. But I was 16 years old and I wanted to learn how to play rock and roll. And that's what I wanted to learn how to do. Mary Had a Little Lamb had nothing to do with it until I heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan, nonetheless. But then we would get together with kids from school, and that's all we would talk about. Playing guitar, this. Oh, dude, everybody was so happy when a new member of the group came in and got a guitar and had a different perspective, and it was just like, oh, it was great, man. And then high school's over, and the school of thought was that you get with a bunch of guys and you get out there and you just hit the bricks, man. You work hard. And that's what everybody was doing at the time. There was the occasional one-hit wonder and the occasional overnight success. At least that's what you thought. But there was always a backstory where these people worked their ass off trying to get where they were. And that put spirit into the music. That put drive and fire and energy. That's what made rock and roll was this push, this You know, my pop broke his heart when I wanted to start growing my hair long and get an electric guitar. I swear to God, my family thought they had failed me. But I think the biggest thing that kicked the feet out from underneath rock and roll was a movie. And if you think that a movie cannot induce societal change, I want to give you several instances where it has. You go back, Annie Hall started a whole fashion trend. All the women were dressing like Annie Hall. Saturday Night Fever had everybody bebopping to 180 beats a minute all over town. When I was in the Navy and I went overseas, went to Haifa, Israel, we took a Sheirut, I think that's what it was called, to Tel Aviv. And there was one part of Tel Aviv that was just nothing but discos, but it was actually just one big disco. This is all spilling out on the street. Everybody's disco dancing, you know. Another instance would be Urban Cowboy. I lived in Houston, Texas when that movie came out. And there was a whole horde of rock and roll musicians that overnight could not buy a rock and roll gig. That whole town turned country, and that was it. There was no discussing it. And the whole nation began to turn country after that. Fast and Furious. You know, because of the Fast and Furious franchise, our streets and highways are full of obnoxiously loud little sedans driving like they're in a constant pursuit of something. What it is, I don't know. So the movie that really changed everything was School of Rock. After that, it became popular to be in a band, even at a young age. Moms and dads who were never in bands were going out and buying their kids guitars and drums and basses and keyboards and stuff like that. I know there's at least 5 School of Rock type places here in Austin alone where you can take your kid, they will teach him how to play a guitar, teach him how to operate his equipment, help him get together with fellow musicians and create a band and get out there and play shows and whatnot. That did not exist in the mid to 70s, you know, and on. No, sir. And it certainly wasn't popular to be in a band. For me, it was a form of rebellion. I grew up with a very strict upbringing. My father was an officer in the Army, and when he retired from the Army, went into law enforcement. And let me tell you, brother, I was full of rebellion by the time I turned 18. Which was why my naval career was neither long or spectacular. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the music these days just don't have that drive, that soul in it, you know. It's generic. And that happens, sure, you know. One example of what I'm saying is the freshman album syndrome. Many times a group would be out there and busting it, hitting the bushes, doing everything they could to get their music on a label and on the radio and whatnot. And their first albums were absolutely dynamic masterpieces. But then after that, you know, it started to fade off. A lot of that had to do with record companies, you know. And old Rick, he's got a video about that. I really suggest that you go over, if you're into music and music production and you're not subscribed to Rick Beato, you should go over and check the guy out. He's got a really good guest list that he gets on. Just it's a great. I watch it frequently. And Rick, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to tag along on your coattails. It was just the way I see it. And be more than happy to discuss it with you anytime, Rick. Give me a call. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate you tuning in, checking out the world according to the blind dog, and please like and subscribe. That's the world according to the blind dog. We'll see you again real soon. Bye, y'all.